Deborah Schultz. Have fun. Hey everybody, how you doing? Can I tell you, following Fred's little trip down memory lane is awesome for me because I think I've worked at or was in many of the offices that he talked about since I'm a born and bred Brooklynite now living in the Valley. Deb at AOL, I think, was my first email address. So I've got you all here to talk a little bit about Death of the Grand Gesture. Pretty provocative title, I know. And I guess what I'm here to say more is that it's not a death of the grand gesture so much as it is a transformation, if you will. So here I am on stage in New York City, in sort of the quintessential grand gesture city. I'm giving a speech at Web2 Expo, which is a grand gesture, and you're all here listening to me. So what exactly is a grand gesture? I mean, I think we all know them when we see them. Grand gesture usually has a finite beginning, middle, and an end. It's a punctuation. It's the flowers you give someone on Valentine's Day. It's the recent Democratic National Convention. I'd say that's a pretty grand gesture, right? It's things like a company that has a big for sale sign out and is trying to get you into the store right after Thanksgiving to maybe start buying your Christmas or Hanukkah presents. And Super Bowl ads. Some of you might remember this one. It's Kevin, Rose, and Dig. Super Bowl ads, and you know, the annual ad that you do with your customers and your company. But I'm here to talk about, now the cool thing about these is that they get our attention, right? We're all here and we're getting attention right now. I can't believe it, I'm standing up here getting attention from everyone out here. You could just as easily get this information on my blog. So grand gestures are punctuations in our lives. And I thought when I was putting together this talk, quite frankly, I was thinking, originally it was death of the grand gesture. And then I realized, it's not so much really a death. So I thought I would play something that to me is quintessential grand gesture music. Let's see if we get this going. So I want you to think about that as we talk about the grand gesture. Musicians have a really great understanding of what a grand gestures are. But first I wanted to talk about the personal. So as opposed to the flowers on Valentine's Day, right? You have the personal. You have a flower that someone picks for you, that one flower they might give you just because. And you have that constancy of a friend that you talk to every day. You have a whisper, as opposed to me up here on stage, giving this big grand gesture. You have a whisper. You have the concierge or the doorman that remembers your name, the company that provides service before sale. A lot of people like to talk about, I know that a friend of mine, Lane, likes to talk about customer service is the new marketing, or in our web world, Zappos puts customer service first. And we also have the conversation that happens on a couch or among friends. All these photos are from Flickr. I absolutely love this one. I had to crop it. It's like 8 people all looking in different directions and chatting with each other and looking straight in each other's eyes. Very personal, right? It happens in the offline world. It's very, very personal. And then you have this thing called the social web. So the social web comes along, and it's not this finite, episodic, grand gesture that has a beginning, middle, of an end, right? All those personal things we do in our daily lives offline, we now do online. These are just some, fun talking points that I'll throw up. We get on Twitter, we blog, we ask people what we can do. We can do all those little attaboys, or I'm sure anyone here, and if you're not either on a social network or on Twitter or a blog or some sort of self-expression or a video blogger, you know what I'm talking about. It's that sense of connectedness that we talk about, that you can get help and you can have that hello. The water cooler has moved online. It's sort of like, it was really fun for me to watch the meetup animation with Josh from Sudo. I'd forgotten, he really was we thought he was crazy, but he was also very futuristic in what he was doing. Those two bookends of our lives, right? This sort of, let's get back offline, let's get back online, right? And, I like to say, I love my online friends. I mean, there's always this argument, are these friendships real? I just think that's the wrong language that we're using. They're connections. I very often say we're still using this binary language of the online to describe to describe our lives. So am I friends with my mailman? You know, I say hello to him, I'm connected to him, we share pleasantries. Is he my friend? He's my connection. So we live in this binary online world of sort of follow, don't follow, friend, don't friend, subscribe to RSS feed, don't subscribe to RSS feed. We're a little more complex in our personal gestures. So I love this slide. By the way, I've been using this forever. If you have any interest in topographical maps, this is the geek side of me, I love visual complexity. It basically is graphical maps of social networks, network charts, network weaving, and it is a representation of the thousands and millions of personal gestures that we have with each other now every day online. I mean, each one of those represents thousands of connections across continents, across languages, across globes, across the silos that we live in here. Only this number of people fit in this room, right? So, here's the interesting part. And let me go back one. Here's the interesting part. Yeah, the obligatory kittens, I know. So here's the interesting part, that we very often talk about if we only live in this online world, it can become this white noise, with the constant ambient intimacy, information overload. I can't keep up with my friends or my contacts, or etc. If we only live in that world, we have a white noise in the background. If we only live in the grand gesture world, our relationships are pretty flat. They're pretty flat. I mean, the equivalent I like to do is ignore me, ignore me, ignore me. Flowers on Valentine's Day. Ignore me, ignore me, ignore me as a customer. Super Bowl ad. Neither extreme works for us. So now what's happened is that the social web is impacting the import of grand gestures. So, you know, the balance of these two are really what is important for us to think about. And I thought I put the obligatory yin-yang and of the LOL kittens to sort of help us think about both of those worlds. And going back to the music, I wanted to play this clip that I found, which I thought, considering that I like to talk about this as a relationship economy that we're all in, and starting off with Beethoven's Fifth, bum, 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 I wanted them to pull up this great clip I just found yesterday. Let's see if they can pull it up. Can you pull up the YouTube video and full screen it, maybe? Hit play. Watch this. Watch the grand gestures. This is the continuum. Boom. I love this. It goes on and on. Okay, guys. By the way, it goes on for the entire first movement, an entire minute and a half, which I think is, they're brilliant. That's Sid Caesar and Nanette Fabray from Show of Shows, 1950. It's amazing when you Google Beethoven's Fifth, what pops up. I saved you from the synthesized versions. So I wanted to leave you with, as Jen said, they asked me to sort of open up the show, and I know we've got a room kind of probably 50 geeks and developers, and probably 50% of you are sort of marketing, figuring out how this impacts your company and your lives, is that you can't have a grand gesture without the continuum, and you can't have the continuum without the grand gesture. One becomes background noise without the other. And if you are only living in the continuum, then, and not getting out and meeting with your customers face to face, whether they be at a startup or a big company, you're kind of doomed to get a little disconnected. And if you're only living in the grand gesture, then you've had your head under a rock for the past few years. And you need to wake up to a sense of consistency. And I always like to say, because technology changes, humans don't, and keep that in mind, and thanks for listening. And that's about it. Thanks, everyone.